In the animal kingdom, death is usually quiet, cold, functional. A predator eats, a scavenger cleans up, and life moves on. No pause, no ceremony, just the next moment, arriving on schedule. But every once in a while, scientists watching wild animals see something that breaks that pattern completely. They see animals stop what they're doing. They see them gather around a body that offers them nothing. No food, no warning, no reason to stay. And sometimes, they see them do something that looks unmistakably like mourning. So here's the question nobody expected to have to ask seriously. Are humans really the only species that holds something like a funeral? Welcome to Etholux, where we explain the hidden complexities of animal behavior and the evolution of the natural world. Today we're looking at the quietest side of nature. Not hunting, not mating, not survival in the obvious sense. We're asking whether animals actually understand death, or whether it just looks that way from the outside. Before we get into it, it helps to remember why humans hold funerals in the first place. A funeral isn't really for the person who died. It's for the people left behind. A ritual to process grief and mark that something has permanently changed. Animals, as far as we know, don't have that kind of social infrastructure. So, when their behavior starts to resemble ours anyway, it's worth asking why. Let's start with the giants. Elephants are one of the few species that force scientists to ask whether death rituals exist outside humans. Researchers studying wild herds in Kenya's Amboseli National Park have documented this behavior for decades. When a member of the herd dies, the others don't just walk away and keep grazing. They linger. They slow down. The whole herd goes quiet in a way that almost feels deliberate. Then they do something that unsettles even experienced researchers. They reach out with their trunks and touch the bones. Gently, slowly, running their trunk tips over the skull, the jaw, the tusks, almost like they're trying to identify who this used to be. And it doesn't stop there. Elephants have been observed returning to the same remains, years later, still stopping, still touching, still standing over bones that have long since been picked clean by scavengers. In some documented cases, they've gone even further, covering the body with branches, dirt, and leaves. From a distance, it can look uncomfortably close to a burial. But here's where the science gets uncomfortable. Is this actually grief? Or is it just biology? An instinct to mask a scent that might otherwise attract predators to the herd? Researchers genuinely disagree. Elephants show a strong, specific interest in elephant skulls and ivory over other bones. But studies suggest they may not actually be identifying specific relatives. It might not be, "This was my mother." It might just be, "This was one of us." Nobody knows for certain. But whatever the underlying reason, the elephant doesn't leave. It stays. Now, let's talk about crows. If you've ever seen a large group of crows gathered loudly around one of their own that has died, it looks exactly like a wake. Dozens of them, cawing, circling low overhead, refusing to leave the area for hours. But the real reason is far less emotional than it looks. Wildlife biologist John Marsliff, whose crow research we've covered before, calls these gatherings funerals, but the research points to something more functional: threat learning. The crows aren't mourning in the way we imagine mourning. They're collecting data. One of their own is dead, right here, right now. So the question running through that entire flock isn't, "Who was this?" The question is, what killed them? And is it still nearby? Every crow in that gathering is scanning the environment, studying the scene, cross-referencing the location with anything unusual, anyone unfamiliar standing close by. It's a funeral where the actual goal is intelligence gathering, making sure nobody else in the flock ends up on the guest list next. If the crows show us that nature is a master of threat assessment, the chimpanzees and orcas show us something far harder to categorize: the inability to let go. To hold something that actually resembles a funeral, an animal needs more than a reflex. It needs a concept most scientists once assumed was uniquely human: the understanding that someone is gone, and they are never coming back. Documented cases have shown chimpanzee mothers carrying their dead infants, grooming them, refusing to set them down, even as the body visibly began to decompose, sometimes for days, sometimes for weeks. And researchers have noted signs that these mothers do seem to recognize, at some point, that death has occurred, even as they continue carrying the body anyway. Orcas have shown something almost identical, and in one case, the entire world watched it happen. In 2018, a southern resident orca known as Tahlequah, also called J35, gave birth to a calf that died within 30 minutes. NOAA confirmed what happened next. She carried the dead calf on her head and back through open ocean for 17 days straight, covering over 1,000 miles, refusing to let it sink. So, what's actually happening here? Is this grief in a form we recognize? Or is it a kind of biological glitch where the brain simply refuses to accept a loss it isn't equipped to process? Nobody can fully answer that question yet, but the behavior itself tells us something important. These animals aren't just reacting to a body, they're reacting to an absence. And recognizing absence requires understanding time, understanding that something existed and now does not. That is not a small cognitive leap. That's the same mental machinery required for memory, for planning, for anticipating a future that no longer includes someone. So where does that leave us? Animal funerals don't have eulogies. They don't have ceremonies or songs or headstones. But elephants linger over bones they'll never need again. Crows turn a death into a search for danger. Primates and orcas carry their dead for as long as their bodies will allow. Whether it's survival, memory, or something closer to genuine grief, the space between us and them is smaller than we like to admit. So, what do you think? Is this grief? Or is it just survival wearing a familiar shape? Let us know in the comments.